guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Monday statements on Minnesota sports with Mackie and Judd. I have one involving Friday night programming that I would love to throw out at some point.
Good, yeah, we definitely have to get to that.
Okay, so we'll carve some space out for that. Declan will fire someone's ass at some point here, but yeah, let's go around the room with our Monday statements. I think Dex is going to lead us off here, we decided.
Yeah, I can absolutely lead us off here to start us off on statements. Yes, there will, that Netflix one, I'll hold it. I'll hold it till we get around, because I also have something that is, that's related to that. But let's start with this. Let's start with the Vikings. My statement is, Sam Darnold bounced back with his most important start of his NFL career. Of his Vikings career, obviously, too, but of his NFL career. So he's put up a couple clunkers, right? He had a horrible game in Jacksonville. He's also had just a very roller coaster-like season. Gets off to a hot start, but then had a couple turnover-rich games, has blue screens of death moments. And yesterday against the Titans, that was an incredible bounce-back performance from him. It also is kudos to Kevin O'Connell for putting him in, I think, in a situation to be successful. Yesterday would have been the perfect game to just rely on your running game, right? I mean, just use Aaron Jones, abuse him to death. Titans have a really good pass defense. Let's not get cute here. Well, the Titans did a very good job stopping the Vikings' run. And here come the Vikings passing down the field, hitting Jordan Addison, finding Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold does have the botched pitch, but again, how much is that really on him? He has an interception-free game. I thought that was the most important bounce-back performance from him. The Vikings needed that badly from Sam Darnold, and he gave the Vikings a great performance in the win over the Titans.
Yeah, the number one game of his career via PFF.
Yeah, and O'Connell did a brilliant job, I thought, too, of spending the weeks building him up, building a game plan that worked as well. Like the amount of, if you go back and think about this, how many dumb throws, like really questionable throws, there weren't a lot. There might have been none. The majority of his incompletions were just going to be either caught by a Viking or incomplete. So yeah, I thought the teamwork between the coach, the coaching staff, and Darnold was fantastic. And I also think that the run game had one big problem, and we have not really discussed it yet. Aaron Jones was clearly playing banged up to hell. In the third quarter, he got hit, I think, again in the ribs, and he came off, and you could tell he could barely walk at that point. He came back in. He deserves credit, but that Aaron Jones that we saw on Sunday, Phil, was probably 60% maybe?
Yeah, it's never good when a guy has to lay on the ground for like 10 seconds and tell his teammates, "Don't help me up yet. Let me see if I can get up.
Yeah.
Don't come near me. There might be a rib sticking out of my jersey. Is there blood? I don't know." Yeah. But Cam Akers was okay in spurts, but yeah, there's just, if you were to make a list, and we will for next offseason, of things the Vikings need to become the Lions, or at least the regular season version of the Lions. I'm not saying I wouldn't say upgrade over Aaron Jones, but he needs a running mate that is his equal or better. If he's the David Montgomery, who is the Jahmyr Gibbs long term? Who's the young, explosive dude that it can be? Because Cam Akers comes in, runs the ball 10 times for 25 yards, and that includes a 12-yard run. So it was 9 carries for 13 yards in the other chunk.
Yeah.
It's just not, the guy's got literally their secondary option is a guy with 2 blown Achilles tendons, for God's sake.
Who's just a backup.
I don't even know if he's an NFL player.
Well, he's just a backup, but he is definitely not like when Aaron Jones is playing at 100%. And when you watch Akers try to play, it's just such a huge divide there. But I really think that part of what made the coaching job by O'Connell and play calling impressive was I don't think he was operating with a run game. And you can blame, Ingram's a better run blocker than Reisner, and he got benched. So did that hurt? I'm sure it didn't help. But I also don't think anyone who watched Aaron Jones thought Aaron Jones is having a really bad game. I wonder what's wrong. You said, oh no, this dude's hurt. So.
Yeah. Okay, I'll jump in and give you this one. Aspiring NFL head coaches, be careful what you wish for. CBS put this graphic on the screen yesterday, and it's a phenomenal compliment to the Vikings nailing their hire. Mm-hmm. But then you look at the rest of the guys hired as part of the 2022 coaching class. There were 9 of them. Kevin O'Connell has by far the best record of all 9 coaches hired that year, 28-16. And a huge chunk of that is with Sam Darnold, Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, and Jaron Hall as starting quarterbacks. Then Mike McDaniel at 24-20. Todd Bowles, who's been solid with Tampa Bay. They've got a weak schedule. They could make a run here in the next month. And then here's the other 6 guys on this list. Actually, I think it's a list of 10. It is a list of 10. So the other 7 guys. Doug Peterson. Has he been fired yet today?
I was going to say, how is he still employed this morning?
There's a chance that as of the posting of this podcast, he could be fired. So keep your eye out.
I'm shocked.
Brian Daboll, who is safe according to Giants ownership, but also announced this morning Daniel Jones will be the 3rd-string quarterback coming out of the bye. Tommy DeVito, the starter, and Drew Lock, the main backup. They have just bailed on Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Matt Eberflus, who is now 14-30, explaining away another devastating loss yesterday.
Well, what happened?
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then Dennis Allen, Josh McDaniels, Lovie Smith, and Nathaniel Hackett all fired already at some point in the last 2.5 years.
Yep.
That's a third of the league that changed coaches in 2022, and Kevin O'Connell easily the most successful of all 10 of those guys.
You know what? Do you think so? I know that that all indications are that Daboll is going to be retained by the Giants, but do we think that Joe Shane and who's the GM as well and Daboll are coming back? Because didn't the Giants owner basically say, I hope losing Saquon doesn't blow up in our faces or something to that?
Yeah.
Well,
and
has.
You've got the Eagles fans chanting, thank you, Giants, post-game on Thursday. It just feels to me, I don't know, the Giants they feel like a bleep show.
How about this? The Giants are 10-22 with an average of 16 points per game when Daniel Jones starts a game without Saquon Barkley.
And
so, yeah.
And I will say
Fire
this.
Everybody.
On Saquon, I would almost 99 out of 100 times, I would rather watch a football game from my couch. I just feel like you get the replays. There's not a lot of incentive to go to games. But the one thing in the last 3 years that I saw was when you watch Barkley live, he's a different player. Like he is a complete outlier to that position. His overall skill set, what that dude can do. I left the stadium saying, oh my God, I had no clue. I knew he was good. I had no idea he was this good. The Giants saw that for how long? And we're like, yeah, you're a running back. No thanks, dude.
And what's amazing is they could have just bailed on the Daniel Jones thing, drafted a quarterback in a really rich class last year.
Yes.
And then had enough room to maybe even sign Saquon Barkley for the last 3 years of his career. And they wind up getting nothing for one of the best players in the NFL and
J.J.
keeping
McCarthy
one of the worst quarterbacks.
Could be their hope right now.
He could be. Bo Nix could be their savior.
Yeah.
Michael Penix got into a game yesterday.
Penix.
Oh, so we saw that.
Michael Penix. One last thing off your point about O'Connell though, Phil. I think we're, and I get your stat, but I think we're selling him a little bit short on Kirk Cousins as well. He took Kirk, who was a really good statistical QB, and he turned him into a comeback machine. And after a bad start by the team last year, had him in some early MVP conversations. Mm-hmm. That's not the Kirk Cousins we knew prior to that. And that's also not the Kirk who was sent to the bench yesterday because the Falcons, for at least the second time this season, were getting their drawers blown off. He gets a lot of credit, I think, for Kirk.
And what's amazing is Kirk has started 156 games now in his career. He is 500 in games started with coaches that aren't Kevin O'Connell. He is 17-8 with 8 fourth quarter comebacks in games navigated with Kevin O'Connell. So team success, fourth quarter comebacks, everything way up with Kirk and Kevin O'Connell. Kirk with Jay Gruden, Kirk with Mike Zimmer, Kirk with Raheem Morris. And of course, it's always everything else. It's funny now, like there's a conversation to be had later this week, but I took a stroll through Atlanta Falcons Twitter yesterday, and it's this defense, fire the defensive coordinator. This defense is terrible. So the Vikings, the year before Kirk arrived, had a top 3 defense in the NFL. And the year after Kirk leaves, a top 3 scoring defense in the NFL.
Why's that?
Got to be coincidence, right? Just terrible luck. He's the unluckiest quarterback. Or was it maybe that you have extra resources to go and fill out your defense with a bunch of awesome players who are disruptive, right? Yeah. Not that we've had that conversation.
And meanwhile, the Falcons have a rookie quarterback who they should be gaming the system, right? Financially, and instead they're going to allow that guy to sit for like 3 years or so. So
do you think like the Falcons at 6-5 right now, what would their record, how much worse could their record be if Michael Penix was the starting quarterback and they had used the $40 million on like
their defense
other
would be
players?
great.
Yeah, they might have signed Jonathan Grenard
Their defense would be outstanding. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, but I do think O'Connell, I do think we shouldn't assume that Cousins would have had the success in the time period that he was here with Kevin without Kevin. Yeah. I thought Kevin did a great job there. Okay, here's my weekend statement. Not since the Grinch has Christmas been threatened by an entity as much as it's being threatened right now by the fine folks at Netflix.
Oh, we're going to do this now. I love this. Okay.
We're going to do this now. And you guys can talk about the fight. I know it was a disaster, but the fight to me was the soft launch for something far more important, and that is My Christmas Day, which is being built right now, don't tell Dawn, around Chiefs Steelers and Ravens Texans. 2 games on Christmas. By the way, I love this now. I love it being a football day, but Netflix has the rights to stream both. Let me just take you through before I turn this over to a couple guys who I think tried far harder to watch the fight than I did, but Netflix has now done 2 live events in its history. A lot of success here, so good for them. But on live events, it's been a disaster. You'll recall April of 2023, we had the Love is Blind reunion that was supposed to be live.
The Mackies were ready to watch that live. Very excited.
Buffered so bad that they couldn't do it. They then had to tape it, record it, and show it subsequently. Okay, that's a disaster, but they still showed it, and it was plausibly live because
on demand. It's been a great on demand company.
Yep.
That's what they should.
So then Friday night, I actually tried to duck in early, and I got a preliminary fight, but it looks something like cable access circa 1986 with the presentation, and you could tell it wasn't really working perfectly. Just under 100,000 complaints registered around Netflix's coverage of the Tyson Fury fight, and I saw a majority of people that watched it actually watched it from illegal streams. Antonio Brown, right?
Well, there's 2. Antonio Brown was inside the stadium
and streamed it,
and he had or somebody on his team, and he streamed the big board inside.
Okay, nice.
Jerry World. And had 6.6 million people watching off of a phone streaming the big board.
And it worked.
Yep.
And then there was another, I don't know if it was like in a different country or something, but somebody had a working Netflix feed, 80% working.
Okay.
That was out on a couple platforms. There was somebody at a bar on TikTok, and I was bouncing through all these because I wanted to watch it.
But what's the NFL going to, but like they've got to fix this.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't imagine. By the way, Jerry Jones is there. They're interviewing him and his mic cuts out and he's talking about how Netflix is the future with the NFL and all this stuff. Netflix also touted 60 million households tuned in to watch the fight, which A, I'm skeptical. And B, it might just be the train wreck factor. People, how many households were coming back 10 different times because they were just trying to get it to work and load, right?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
And like the word of mouth of the train wreck probably helped boost the amount of people that were trying to access it. But yeah, the NFL and the WWE, which starts their Monday Night Raw show in January on Netflix. How is it possible? Okay, Amazon Prime can do live events, ESPN Plus, and of course ESPN's been doing it for 50 years. Peacock. How does Netflix not have the people, the infrastructure in place after signing these deals?
I know.
Make it make sense.
I'll jump in with my firing of an ass because I'm firing the Netflix servers. I'm firing everyone that is in charge of the Netflix servers. That was an easy firing. I had that written down. I like it. Multiple cocktails in on my phone at like 11:30 on Friday night. That was no problem. So I do subscribe to WWE Fightful, and they apparently reached out. They inquired to those in WWE, and they said they have been assured that these issues would be kept at a minimum. One higher-up said that if they were ever doing the type of traffic Mike Tyson and Jake Paul were doing, that it would be a good problem to have. Netflix Live Love is Blind finale also had significant issues. But yes, that's true for WWE. Like, they're not going to do $60 million for Raw. They won't. I don't even know if would they'd even do that for WrestleMania. But the NFL, that's going to be a huge issue for them. Huge issue.
I don't know how it's a good problem, though. Like, that's an interesting way to spin it. Boy, if our platform craps out on the biggest night of audience.
So many people try to watch it. It's great. They can't watch that, but that's a different thing. But the National Football League has to get assurances on this. Like, this cannot happen.
I know.
Well, it's going to. So get ready.
I mean,
because they can't do another test run until. Do they have another event planned in the next month until the Christmas games?
No, which is what I mean. You're going to have to. I mean, there have to be serious high-level discussions today about what they're going to do, and if the answers aren't right, I think you're going to have to pull it.
As far as the actual fight, there are two different conspiracy theories working against each other. There's the one that, well, Jake Paul, who's 27 and a formidable fighter, he has fought over the hill MMA fighters in boxing matches, but the one time he has one loss, and it's when he fought a 25-year-old Tommy Fury, who's not quite Tyson Fury, but like his brother, and he got beat. I think it was a split decision when he fought someone in their 20s. So the one school of thought, conspiracy-wise, was Jake Paul could have ended that fight at any point because he's fighting a 58-year-old man, and he decided to just not make Mike Tyson look bad and carry him through 8 rounds. But my favorite conspiracy theory is, dude, some of these training videos that Tyson was putting out, lightning fast, even at 58. And he did not look the same. And obviously when you're punching with a trainer, it's different than when you're, maybe going to get hit back.
Sure.
But so Tyson came out early with a couple like vintage combos, and he caught Jake on one of them. And then right around the 3rd round, which might be when a 58-year-old gets tired, Tyson kind of stopped and was like biting his gloves and stuff, almost like he was trying to force himself to hold back. So the other conspiracy theory is that Tyson was told, you're going to get $20 million, but it needs to work out a certain way so that Jake Paul can be elevated out of this thing and have a win on his record over Mike Tyson.
Wow.
Which conspiracy theory do you believe? That, hey, Jake Paul did a favor to Mike Tyson by not making him look like an idiot, or that Tyson could have knocked out Jake Paul at any point, even at age 58, but the parameters and the financial parameters of the fight prevented it from happening?
Probably the latter. I mean, round 1, Tyson had him beat. I was like, oh my God, Tyson's going to kick the crap out of Paul. This was awesome. He totally won the first round of that fight.
Yeah.
But he's also 58, and I think both of them probably are somewhat true. I remember watching some of those training videos, and I think it was, I was listening to a Lebitard podcast, and I was just listening to it in the car. I wasn't watching it. And it was like, can you guess what this sound is? And it was this, I thought it was like some animal. It was Mike Tyson running like a 40-yard dash with weights on his waist. Like, it was the grunting and sounds that this man was making when he was I agree with Phil. Like, I think if he really wanted to, he probably could have. And he probably, the longer that fight went on, the more it was going to favor Paul just because of age and endurance. But I would have loved to see Tyson knock his ass out early, like he maybe could have.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many more times can Jake Paul?
Right.
It's like, oh, he's fighting Anderson Silva. He's fighting.
It sounds like Door too, except that at 58, if you go 3 rounds, you're probably exhausted. Like, I mean, I'm approaching that, and I can tell you right now, like you might feel good for a round, but you would get really, really exhausted. But here's the other thing too, and I mean, this is a much bigger picture question, but it's so sad that in a day that MMA is huge, right? Like there's pay-per-views constantly. It's clearly got
John Bones Jones just
How is it that boxing has to rely on Mike Tyson still at 58 to come back to have any semblance of like, oh, it's an event?
Yeah.
Like what's the sweet spot between where MMA is currently and getting boxing just basically back on its feet? Forget like huge.
I think part of boxing has, to me, 2 major problems. One, it's not nearly as organized as UFC. UFC is a brand. UFC is one. Yep. Now, there's other MMA leagues. There's like the Pro Fight League, and there's other. But UFC is like and there's Major League Fighting, but UFC is the Major League premier fighting company. And there's a ranking system. There's a scheduled event every single month minimum,
a really
right?
Good idea.
So it's super, super organized, and they know how to build up stars and promote them, even if guys might flash out after a couple years or women. Boxing has been so complicated, and it's been up to these Don King promoters over the years, right? Or Bob Arum or whoever.
But aren't they dying off now?
The promoters. But that does, just because Don King dies off doesn't mean that like, oh, now there's an organizational structure here.
Can't they get one? Like that's what I don't get though. Like it used to be, to your point, Arum is fighting King, and there's all these rankings, and it got too confusing. I would think though, since the sport feels like it's damn near dead, that somebody could come along and say, let's have a system here. Like let's all get together and have a system that makes sense, therefore can be marketed, therefore can be successful. That's what I don't understand.
I think the flaw is like it's not valuable from a TV standpoint. There's no you don't see. You could put UFC on like pre-fight stuff, and even they've got like sort of between pay-per-view things that do well on ESPN and ESPN Plus. The product is not, and this is the other part. When mixed martial arts came along, and I don't know if you guys have ever watched like the first handful of UFC events, like way before Dana White bought it and kind of spruced it up. There were no weight classes. It was like they would put a sumo wrestler in an octagon against a jiu-jitsu fighter and just see what happens. Yeah, and that was kind of the early hook, is different styles, different sizes, and you just put these dudes in an octagon for a half hour, and the only way the fight can end is if one guy dies, basically, right? But once it kind of got refined, you're watching these fights in a cage, and they can punch, kick, use their knees. They ground and pound. It's a little more gruesome, and it's just, there's more action. In a boxing match, when you compare it to the last 25 years of MMA, it's just not as exciting. Yeah. Now, that women's fight, the pre-main event, was awesome.
Yeah,
that was great.
But it's not. Now, Jake Paul actually came out on Twitter, and I think he'd like to fight Conor McGregor. And initially it was, and I don't remember exactly like the timeline of this, but Jake Paul tweeted out, hey, Conor's people said, I'll fight you in a boxing match, but it has to be at Conor's weight, which is like 170. Well, Jake Paul was like 220 something for this fight against Tyson. It was like a heavyweight. So McGregor's camp is saying, we'll fight you in a boxing match, but you got to drop 50 plus pounds to our weight. And Jake Paul is saying, well, what if we did this? What if I come to your realm? We'll do a mixed martial arts fight, but no weight restrictions. So I get to stay at 220. You can do whatever you want at 170, but I get the 50-pound edge on you. Would you pay money to watch Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor in a mixed martial arts fight?
No way.
Oh man.
But I mean, I'm
that's
sure
where
the
we're at.
people
Like,
would.
But a
I'm
bunch
sure,
of
yes.
people would. Yes.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. And to be clear now, Netflix did not, this was not a pay-per-view, correct? It was just if you got Netflix.
Netflix,
Yeah. So
yes.
because I saw like I paid a lot for this. It's like, no, actually you didn't. You pay for Netflix. But look, I am very concerned about Christmas. I'm very concerned about Netflix ruining my Christmas day. Those
Dex
are
and
two
I are more
really
concerned
good,
about Monday Night Raw.
those are two really good games. What's going to happen on Christmas if you can't watch those two games?
I guess you'll have to hang out with your family.
Yeah,
I'm going to hang out with my family regardless.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
No, you're
Well,
gonna
no,
stay at
I'm
home.
going to hang out with Dawn and Stella. That's my family. I mean, my sister might come by. I don't know about that. But I'm going to be watching. I want to watch the football games, and then at night, the Wolves game.
Well, good luck to you. Hopefully you'll make it through Christmas if you can't
What
watch.
time's that Wolves game on Christmas Day? I might be wrong.
I don't know
It
what
might
the
not
NBA
be
I don't
the
know what the
night game.
exact
It might
NBA
not be the
schedule is.
night game. It might not be the night game.
Well, Judd Googles that real quick here. We do want to remind the audience that this is Give to the Max week. And so all week long across our SKOR North podcast, we are putting our support behind formerly known as Secondhand Hounds, now The Bond Between, which has rescued over 30,000 dogs and cats, thanks largely to the support of your donation. So we're looking to raise a few $1,000s. Our friends at Nutrisource are kicking us off with a $2,000 match as well. So whether you have $5 or $50 or whatever it may be, scorenorth.com/donate, scorenorth.com/donate for Give to the Max week.
Wolves Mavs Christmas Day 1:30, so that might make it a little bit more palatable if the football is buffering the entire time. I can at least watch the basketball game.
Okay.
And also, did you guys see the great news? Inside the NBA is now going to be licensed to ESPN, which raises my question. What happens to their shows? I mean, I don't really care about it, but like if I'm on their studio shows, I guess I don't have a job anymore doing that.
And that's a next year thing, right?
That's next year, yes.
It's going to stay on TNT this year.
Yeah, but TNT is not going to. They're out of the NBA game business in the United States, but they are still going to produce inside the NBA and license it out.
Yeah, I would say ESPN's had 10, 20 years to figure out what their in-studio show should be, and they've rotated through a bunch of different iterations.
Now,
the best version of it was probably like Magic Johnson, Bill Simmons awkwardly together on the same panel with like Jalen Rose. But I don't know. I mean, they haven't nailed it. So I love it. Let's bring Inside the NBA over, and it's not going to be. Is it going to be before every game? Do we know?
Probably
like what?
Not. I don't know, but I doubt that.
Because Charles Barkley ain't going to increase his workload for this.
No, he's not. I'm just glad that show is surviving though, because that would have been such a shame for that show to disappear completely.
Yeah. All right. Any other statements? I think we exhausted the bag on that Netflix thing.
I think we did. I had
got that out of our system.
I had a Bo Nix one, because Bo Nix playing pretty damn good ball right now.
Would you swap out Bo Nix for J.J. McCarthy right now if given the chance?
No. I'll still take the mystery box that is J.J. McCarthy.
Judd?
No, I agree completely. I would not swap him out.
Okay. He is
Impressive start.
He has a QBR of just under 70 in his last 6 games, dude. He's playing pretty good football.
Yep. It shows again, too, what a complete debacle in retrospect the Russell Wilson Peyton thing was. Mm-hmm. Like Sean Payton is really good ordinarily with QBs. The fact that he could not get on the same page with Russ becomes even more glaring now. Because, I mean, he's taken a rookie, this kid, who I think a lot of us thought might be okay at best or not good at all, and done a really good job. So yeah,
but like Bo Nix is definitely quick, short, intermediate, that's what Drew Brees feasted on for years with Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. And Russell Wilson, if you look at his like completion maps and stuff, it's very rare that you even see him complete a pass or attempt a pass in that middle section of the field. It's all downfield, outside the hash marks.
And how about the Steelers too? Beat the Ravens now.
2 games clear of the
Justin
Ravens.
Justin Tucker has lost it. I don't know what's happened to him.
Banished kickers. Evan McPherson yesterday. My God, I can't stand kickers. Sam Munson summed it up perfectly.
You're like Zimmer.
We are literally debating of who would you take between Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, and it's all coming down because Evan McPherson can't make a GD kick.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I can't
drove
stand
Zim crazy.
You know so Justin Tucker and Evan McPherson are statistically two of the worst kickers in the entire league percentage-wise this year. It's wild. And yeah, McPherson, there's been a couple great graphics. Like, they've been in close games that he has cost them single-handedly 2 or maybe 3 games that have swung because of his misses.
Yep.
Yeah, it's bad news there. Good thing the Vikings have 2 reliable kickers,
Parker
Will Reichard
Romo.
and John Parker. I know he missed an extra point, but
You did sort of miss the extra point, yeah.
it's very windy in Nashville.
And plus, it looks like the more stories I read, the John part of John Parker Romo is completely gone now.
Well,
Mark
at the
Craig
beginning of the
did
broadcast,
the big story.
Spiro Ditas was calling him John Parker Romo to start with, and then someone corrected him
right
deeper into the game.
Yep. He's now. I'm with you guys. I'd keep the John. JPR sounds better.
It's going to be tough to make that transition.
I'm with you guys on this.
All right. Those are your Monday statements here. Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd. We had our hottest Vikings takes on Purple Daily, our State of the Wolves Monday, Judd's Hockey Show multiple days a week, and all sorts of other stuff coming down the pipeline here this week across SKOR North podcasts. We'll see you guys tomorrow on Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd with a scoop session with our guy Dukes.